What are you two guys up to now?
Nothing. Well, we're doing our bit for Australia's economy.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, Matt and I both have to do chores at home for no money.
Right, and when you get paid, you're more responsible and you do a better job. So I'm paying Daniel $20 and he's paying me $20.
And so we're contributing $40 to the nation's GDP. You should be thanking us.
You're going to declare that as income?
How's that?
Well, it's only counted in the GDP if you declare it in your tax return. That's one of the problems with the GDP, is it can't measure the black economy.
Right.
I think you two ought to pay as much attention when you study the tax system. Matt and Daniel, apart from being terrible liars, are making an important point. Unpaid household labour provides an enormous amount of goods and services, even in a developed economy. As we increasingly rely on the external production of cleaning, cooking and child minding services, the GDP increases. But is this contributing to our welfare as a nation? Let me put it another way. Is eating takeaway rather than a home-cooked meal increasing our well-being as a nation? The GDP says it is. Common sense says otherwise.
GDP is, in short, is not a good measure of a society's well-being. It probably never has been, although it's been a useful measure. But I think increasingly, with passing time, it is becoming less and less good as a measure of a society's well-being.
Despite years of strong economic growth, unemployment in the 1990s was at its highest since the Depression of the 1930s. During that period, Australia maintained high growth, whilst many of our neighbours endured what became known as the Asian crisis, or economic downturn.
If you really want to spin the economy, if it's having a hard time along, then you go to war and you produce armaments. And certainly you produce jobs that way, but are you increasing the well-being of the community that you're serving?
The government's current stated overriding objective, which is to grow the economy at over 4% per annum, means that we will be in about 20 years' time twice as rich as we are now, and that will mean that we are about 10 times richer than we were 100 years ago, and about 40 times richer in real terms and on average than we were 200 years ago.
Twice as wealthy in 20 years as we are today? Great. We're getting richer faster than ever before, so we must be feeling pretty pleased with ourselves, right? Well, actually, no.
Are we 2 or 3 times happier? And if you ask most people who are old enough to remember, they'll say no. Most people actually think we're worse off than we were 30, 40 years ago. So GDP is our principal measure officially of national progress, but in fact it's a very poor measure of national progress because it leaves out of account a whole range of social and environmental factors that do affect our well-being.
We have to ask ourselves whether this continuing increase in wealth is really what we want, and whether it's continuing to deliver a better life for most people. And that, I think, is the crux of the issue that we face. When you think about your own priorities, your own well-being and that of your family, when you think about the state of the nation and the condition of the planet, should our top priority really to be twice as wealthy in real terms as we are today within about 20 years?